Stand on the crowded harbor at dawn, 2,000 years ago, and you would see a shining city built to proudly outshine even the gods themselves. Before Rome ever ruled the world, and long before Constantinople rose from the water, one city on Egypt's edge held all of human knowledge. This is Alexandria, the single greatest city the ancient world ever managed to build, and in time, its greatest loss it would ever suffer. In the year 331 BC, a young conqueror named Alexander stood on a narrow strip of Egyptian coastline and imagined an empire's brand new heart. He chose this exact spot for its sheltered harbor, its cool sea winds, and its easy access to trade routes, and never lived to see what it became. Architects traced the future city's streets in chalk lines across the desert sand, wide and straight, built for an age of true imperial grandeur. Alexander died young, far from home, but his name would go on to outlive every single king who came to rule after him in this great city he built. His trusted general Ptolemy seized control of Egypt, crowned himself pharaoh, and turned Alexander's rough sketch into a living, breathing empire. Rising nearly 400 feet above the busy harbor stood the Great Lighthouse of Pharos, an immense tower built of white stone and fire. Sailors arriving from Carthage, Rome, and Greece watched its flame burning long before they ever caught sight of the low shore beneath it. Bronze mirrors mounted high inside the tower bent captured sunlight into a beam that could be seen for many miles across the dark, open water. It stood among the very tallest structures on the entire Earth, a monument to engineering that would go on to endure for over 1,000 years. Locals believed the Great Lighthouse watched over them like a protective god, guiding every ship safely home through the darkest of nights. But the lighthouse was never truly Alexandria's greatest treasure. That honor belonged instead to a quieter building near the royal palace. The Great Library was built to hold every scroll, every idea, every single scrap of knowledge that humanity had ever managed to produce so far. Ships docking in the busy harbor were routinely searched for books, and any scrolls found aboard were copied before being finally returned. Scholars traveling from Greece, Persia, India, and lands far beyond came here just to read what no other city on earth had ever possessed. At its absolute peak, the library may have held over 500,000 scrolls, an almost unimaginable number of ancient texts for its own time. It was less a single building than a promise, a belief that knowledge could be gathered, protected, and carried forward into humanity's future. Beyond the quiet marble halls of scholars, Alexandria's crowded streets pulsed with a chaos that no other ancient city could ever hope to match. Egyptian priests walked beside Greek philosophers, Jewish merchants, and rough sailors, all speaking a dozen different languages at once here. The busy marketplace smelled of cumin, fresh papyrus, and the sharp salt air blowing steadily in off the crowded, restless harbor down below. Fishermen hauled in their catch each morning as skilled glass blowers shaped bottles that would soon travel across the entire Mediterranean world. Children ran laughing through narrow alleys lined with temples to gods from Egypt, Greece, and lands far beyond the surrounding desert sands. This was never really one single city, but 100 different cultures pressed tightly together, arguing, trading, and somehow thriving as one. Centuries after its founding, a young queen named Cleopatra inherited a fractured kingdom that was balanced right on the edge of total collapse. She spoke 9 different languages fluently and understood, better than any ruler before her, exactly how fragile her beloved city truly was. Rome's long shadow stretched steadily across the entire Mediterranean, and Alexandria's independence hung by an increasingly thin, fraying thread. Cleopatra allied herself first with Julius Caesar, and then with Mark Antony, gambling her whole city's survival on shifting Roman politics. For one final glittering moment, Alexandria remained the capital of the very last great Egyptian dynasty in all of recorded human history. But when Antony and Cleopatra finally fell to Rome's armies, Egypt became a mere province, and the Golden Age slowly began fading away for good. Long before Cleopatra's troubled reign began, Alexandria had already become the beating heart of the entire ancient scientific world at large. Euclid wrote the foundations of geometry right here, laying down rules that students would still study some 2,000 years later on today. Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the whole Earth, using nothing but shadows, simple wooden sticks, and careful pure mathematics. Physicians working quietly in Alexandria dissected bodies to study anatomy, advancing medicine further than anywhere else on the entire Earth. Astronomers mapped the shifting night sky from rooftops overlooking the harbor, certain the whole universe followed hidden, knowable rules. For centuries, if you truly wanted to understand the wider world, Alexandria was the only place on the entire Earth worth ever traveling to see. But brilliance and beauty could never protect Alexandria forever from the growing ambitions of the mighty empires that surrounded it on all sides. Riots broke out between rival religious factions as the city's delicate balance of cultures slowly began to fracture apart at the seams for good. Roman governors tightened their grip on the city year after year, and the independence that once defined Alexandria slowly disappeared for good. Julius Caesar's own soldiers, fighting desperately in the harbor, accidentally set fire to warehouses standing near the library's very edge. No one truly knows exactly how many scrolls were lost that single terrible day, but the damage marked the beginning of a long, slow decline. Over the many centuries that followed, wars, neglect, and constantly shifting rulers chipped steadily away at what remained of the library. Some scholars fled the growing chaos with what scrolls they could carry, scattering fragments of Alexandria's knowledge across the wider world. The Great Lighthouse endured far longer than the library, its flame guiding ships for 1,000 years after the books had already vanished. Earthquakes finally toppled the ancient tower many centuries later, sending its massive stones crashing down into the harbor waters below. By the time medieval travelers finally arrived at its shores, Alexandria's golden age survived only in old stories and fading distant memory. And yet, despite the fires, invasions, earthquakes, and centuries of terrible loss, Alexandria's remarkable story never truly came to a full end. Its ruins still lie beneath the modern city streets and the surrounding harbor waters, waiting for divers and dreamers alike to find them. History never truly disappears. It only waits patiently in the dark, and Alexandria still whispers to anyone still willing to listen closely.